NBA tip-off Friday, September 11th, and this is also the Saturday-Sunday NBA tip-off show because we will be taking an advanced look at Saturday's Lakers-Rockets game here in just a moment. But, of course, we have two big games for Friday night tonight. Game 7, Raptors-Celtics. Also, Nuggets-Clippers resume. They're a few games behind, but it also might be the last game of that series. Before we get to the games, let's bring in the usual suspects here. We're going to go around the horn and introduce them all from WagerTalk.com. I've got Tony Finn. Tony's been on a red-hot run in all sports all year. We've got Teddy Covers. Teddy's been tearing it up, almost 70% run in the NBA since the bubble began. Hakeem Prophet, Ski Prophet, WNBA and NBA as well. And then, of course, let's bring in Rob Vino, last but not least, Rob Vino, industry veteran. He's also at WagerTalk.com. And I'm, of course, your host, Steve Merrill. And, guys, before we get to the games, let's do a quick recap of last night, and then let's look towards tomorrow's game as well, Tony. And any big takeaways from Lakers-Rockets? Lakers basically pulled away from the series as we thought they would, and it's pretty much theirs now, up 3-1.
I thought I was fairly passionate about how I felt about the Lakers and how I felt about the coaching staff and my ifs and buts about them. But I thought they did what they did in the previous game. Went small, a little bit small, and they proved to me, guys, and I'll love to hear what everybody says, but is there something that Teddy and I, this whole group, we talked about Houston. I'll go off track a little bit. We talked about when Houston was playing OKC, how I said emphatically that I didn't believe OKC could play small ball with Houston. They took it to Game 7. They did some things that were effective, and I thought I wasn't sure whether the Lakers could emulate some small ball features, and I think they've done a good job. My takeaway is this. My question is there anything Houston can do to overcome the last two games where they really and truthfully have not been – never felt like they were going to win those games. Can they do something different? I haven't really come to a conclusion or an assessment on that, but I'd love to hear everybody's opinion on that.
Yeah, Teddy, I'll ask you that question. And by the way, looking ahead to tomorrow, 6.5 is now the line for the next game. Lakers' biggest favorite they've been.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Rockets had 26 rebounds last night, and the Lakers had 52.
Yeah.
That's what small ball do to you. The Rockets had one offensive rebound for the game.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting they were in the game despite James Harden making 2 baskets for the entirety of the 48 minutes. So, I mean, they were kept alive at the free throw line, obviously, but they also hit better than 40% from on the arc last night. But when the Lakers, Tony's point about the Lakers is, I think, 100% right. This isn't about the Rockets. This is about the Lakers. And if the Lakers get the contributions from up and down the lineup, and last night, again, Rondo played well, Caruso played well, Danny Green hit threes. When they're getting that type of production from the role player, Caldwell Pope had a couple of big shots last night for LA. When they get that level of production from the role players, the Lakers are a lot better than the Rockets. It certainly showed last night. Although we'll see about the sense of urgency for LA. I think that tonight's Clippers-Nuggets game has some correlation with tomorrow's Lakers-Rockets game. If the Clippers close out Denver tonight, there's a little bit more urgency for LA to get the job done tomorrow.
Yeah, and Tony Finn, I'll give you credit. You mentioned that yesterday when we were analyzing the Laker-Rocket game, and Ski, I threw it to you, and I said, I think that's a good point. I do think there's some correlation there. Clippers most likely will finish out the series tonight. So, Ski, do you see your LA Lakers letting down any tomorrow on Saturday, or do you see them taking care of business in the critical clinch game, I should say?
I agree that depending on how the Clippers do, that's how the Lakers are going to come out. But if I have to lean one way or another before the game, I would say that the Lakers will be focused just because I think they look focused. They look ready, and I don't think there's anything Houston can do. Like Tony said, I called out playoff Harden as he always does. He showed up, and Westbrook is going to be Westbrook. D'Antoni, he's not going to make any changes. So
and by the way, Ski, Rockets are 1-35 favorite now to win the conference series here, or the semi-conference series here. Rob, do you give the Rockets any chance of bouncing back and winning 3 straight? Odds are saying 17-1 on the yes, 1-35 on the no. So I guess the true odds are 26-1 that the Rockets can win 3 in a row. Rob Vino, do you think those are fair odds? But more importantly, what are you looking at here in Game 5 tomorrow? Lakers 6.5-point favorite. Big as the line's been so far.
Yeah, I wouldn't take 26-1 that the Rockets can come back and win this series. Absolutely not. I think you asked us all that question before this series even started, Steve. Did any of us think that Houston had the ability to make it out of the West? And nobody bid on that, so I don't think anybody's going to bite on this either. Teddy talked about contributions. How about these contributions from P.J. Tucker and Robert Covington last night? 3 points. 3 points. They take 6 shots. They make one of those. I mean, you just can't. They're shorthanded enough as it is. If Tucker and Covington aren't going to contribute, and again, sometimes they don't contribute because other guys have the basketball and don't like to necessarily give it up. But they only took 65 shots as a team last night, and I know they were to the free throw line a lot, but Ski mentioned yesterday that this has been the slowest pace series. And if you're going to contain Houston to only 65 shots, then you're going to have a real good chance to beat them. I will mention real quick that, those 3 guys, Harden, Westbrook, and Gordon, Eric Gordon helped me stay in my house last night because he got over 17.5 points.
Austin Rivers last night too, man. Did you watch Austin Rivers with his?
Yeah, he was there. TC, he was there for sure. He was there. 14.
And we know
5 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And we know Rob won his bets last night because there's no Starbucks logos in the background and there's no post office logos in the background. So we know he's using his home office here, not at the local coffee shop, which is good news for all of us. Tony, I'll point out the line has dropped here on the total, 3 points. And it was 218.5 yesterday. It's now 215.5 for Game 5. Lakers about a whole basket higher. They were anywhere from 4 to 5.5 point favorites the other games. Now it's 6.5. Do you agree with these line adjustments for Game 5?
All things being equal, and staying with what we've seen the last 2 nights, I would probably agree. I think that's adjustment. I think part of that adjustment may be that it's an elimination game. I don't know. I know it's the only Game 5 compared to what you might face in a Game 7. Game 7s are typically lower scoring because there's some pressure, and even the NFL players or NBA players feel some pressure. So I say yes. Yeah, answer your question. Yeah, I think that line adjustment's appropriate. I do.
Yeah, and Teddy, just kind of your final takes on this. And viewers, by the way, we're going to get to the 2 Friday night games. We wanted to touch on this one first because there is no weekend show, of course. So those of you joining us on the replays, and most of you do on YouTube all weekend long, Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, you can check in and get this Laker Rocket analysis for Game 5 Saturday. We'll get to those 2 Friday night games here in a few moments in the show. But Teddy, what are some of your other thoughts here on this Game 5 going into Saturday, Lakers Rockets?
Well, certainly, I mean, you talked about how the money's come on LA. Lakers priced higher now than they've been at any point since Game 1 of the series. And I think it's warranted. That said, we've seen the Rockets play maybe their best basketball in the playoffs when they've been pushed to the brink. We saw OKC push them to the brink. The Rockets came through in Game 7. The Rockets came through in Game 5 as well of that game, of that series. We saw them – we've seen in this series, the momentum has way shifted from where it was early on. I'm in no rush to take Houston plus the points tomorrow. But all that said, I wouldn't be shocked if the Rockets have a better game than one we just saw. And that may be enough to get them in under the number.
Yeah, Ski, I know the props aren't out yet for this because it's Saturday's game, but we'll have a lot of viewers watching this Friday night and Saturday afternoon for information on this Game 5. Any early thoughts and some play against guys? Maybe your Westbrook, Harden thoughts, Anthony Davis, LeBron thoughts, just big picture stuff. How'd your Tucker prop do, by the way, last night, PJ Tucker?
Yeah, that one sucked.
I actually had not checked the box on that, so I wasn't trying to call you out.
But I said my favorite one was Rondo. That one did well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rondo had another good game, yes.
Tomorrow, I'm not quite sure yet, but I'll probably be playing somebody's rebounds over for the Lakers, probably Anthony Davis or maybe even Rondo. Rondo got it in there and got some rebounds.
What's your thought on this total dropping 3 points, Ski? It's now 215.5. It's as low as we've seen in this series.
I think if you like Houston, in the slightest bit, I think you like the over. If you like the Lakers, I would continue to think that you like the under.
Yeah, and Rob, we talked about that in the Game 4 preview yesterday, that the Rockets might have to push the tempo a little bit more and start chucking up some threes. Just kind of big picture as we finish off on this Game 5. Any drastic changes you see from Houston? Do you see them pushing the pace more, or will they be able to push the pace?
Well, they probably have to, but generally speaking, you push pace off of defensive rebounds or turnover or takeaways, and Houston's just not getting a lot of those right now. Especially last night, Teddy gave us the numbers, the 52 to 26 rebounding edge that the Lakers had, and if you can't get to the boards and it's one and done, or if you're giving up second chances on the other side and good field goal percentages, then you're just not going to be able to run. But Houston in the past, out of the basket and right in bounds, they've been able to run. I just don't, Steve, I'll say this real quick. Where side and total are concerned, let's not lose sight of the fact that these games haven't been complete blowouts, right? I mean, the Lakers win by 10, 10, and 8. And when you're getting 6.5, you're kind of within a 3-pointer of covering a game if you're the Houston Rockets. And then the total's down to 215.5, but last 3 games are 216, 214, and 210. You're right there in that range. So these adjustments are subtle, but they're probably really good numbers at this point, because it's not like the the Clipper Denver series where we've seen, a couple of real routes. This one's been tight where the line is concerned. So I wouldn't be surprised if Houston lost but covered. But I think the earlier, kind of exterior factor that Teddy and Tony pointed out, what the Lakers do tonight matters. I would totally agree with, what the Clippers do tonight matters. I would totally agree with that. That probably dictates the Laker performance tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's a great point, because I know Teddy and I were sweating the Rockets holding the ball in that game too on the final possession, because if they chucked up a 3 and made it, then the point spread gets reversed there a few nights ago. So it's a good point. These haven't been blowouts like we've seen in a lot of the other series. Hey, let's keep the reverse order going, guys, and let's talk about the late game tonight on Friday, the LA Clipper game first, since that does somewhat correlate to the likely conference finals matchup here. Before we do so, though, I want to remind the viewers out there that WagerTalk.com is where you can find all 5 of us. Our best bets are there each and every day. Of course, football begins. It has begun, but the NFL full season will be in full swing this Sunday. We had our opener last night with Kansas City winning. And then, of course, college football, the first big Saturday of the card, goes tomorrow. So whether you're joining us live right now on Friday afternoon, or if you're going to watch the replay on YouTube, be sure to check out WagerTalk.com for more best bets each and every day. For myself, Steve Merrill, Tony Finn, Teddy Covers, Ski Profit, and Rob Vino. And once again, free plays also at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com, where Teddy is as well. Free plays are up there each and every day. It's a great way to build your bankroll and also educate yourself, because there's analysis with all these free plays, as there are with all the best bets as well, which are at WagerTalk.com. With that said, Tony Finn, are you looking at anything tonight on this late game between the Nuggets and Clippers? Should be a closeout game for LA. Teddy, go ahead.
It's the early game. Clippers, Nuggets is early.
What? You're exactly right. And I should know that, actually, because I'm involved in one of these games tonight, and that is true. So thank you. So I guess I'm not going in reverse order. So my intuition was correct starting with the Clippers.
That's all television, right, guys? That's
isn't that crazy, though, guys? Because we've joked about how the LA game's been the 9 o'clock Eastern game, the entire bubble, entire playoffs. And I guess it's because it's a Game 7 that they're allowing the Clippers to go late. But it's a bold move, though, because this is 3:30, as you all know. This is 3:30 Pacific start on a Friday for the Clippers. But then again, I'm not sure the Clippers-Nuggets has been the most watched series in NBA playoff history. Tony Finn, will you be watching this game today?
I'll have it on. How much I pay, how often I turn my head to it will be depending on who's doing the play-by-play. Is it Kevin Hart? I don't know who's doing it, but a lot of times it's amazing how the whoever's doing the color or the play-by-play can get my attention. They can say, it doesn't have to be anything important. They just get my attention. But I'm not on the game. Don't have a play on the game. However, I still feel the same way about this game. This is all Clippers, and if I'm on this game, I'm either on LA or I'm not on this game. Right now, I'm not on this game.
Yeah, and Teddy, I mean, I would agree with Tony. I think we all agree the Clippers are the better team in this series. They've kind of decided when they want to turn it on and turn it off, though. Teddy, do you think they turn it on enough to cover and win by double digits tonight?
So I would be more inclined to get involved with the total here than the side. From a side standpoint, the Clippers have proven to be the better team, which is what they thought they were. We thought they were going into the series. And I don't think anything has changed through the first 4 games between these two teams. That said, I believe the Nuggets are a character team. I don't think the Nuggets facing adversity are going to collapse. And I've seen enough out of Denver, out of their mentality since the start of the bubble to believe that they're likely to show up. And if the Clips punch them, I think Denver still fights. So I'm much less inclined to get involved with the side here. I think the side, it's right where it's supposed to be at 8.5, and 8.5 really the prevailing number now. But from a total standpoint, this last game went under by 50 points. Okay. The Clips have kind of figured out what Denver wants to do, and Denver's kind of figured out what the Clips want to do. And obviously, it's up to the coaches to make adjustments now. They were double teaming Kawhi, and now Doc Rivers got to figure out how to stop that. They were double teaming Jokic, and now Malone's got to figure out the best game plan for that. But whenever I see a total under by 50 points as the series progresses, I'm not looking to bet overs the next time out. If I'm getting involved here, it'd be under or pass. That's the lean for this better.
Yeah, and Ski, speaking of those unders, what the Nuggets start 13-1 to the over in the bubble and into the playoffs. A couple overtimes got them there, but still 13-1 to the over. And then we saw that Game 7, that Denver-Utah Game 7 go under by 50 or 60 points. I believe I was on the wrong side of that total, by the way. And then, we've seen some Nugget games here recently. Ski, the bottom line is the Clippers can play defense when they want to play defense. I think we all agree on that. And they're a much deeper and diverse team as well when they want to spread the ball around. Ski, do you see anything changing here in Game 5? Do you think the Nuggets have a chance to keep this series going?
Keep the series going? No. The point spread is a different story, but it's tough. I think the Nuggets are toast. The comments made by Michael Porter Jr., I think, messes up some more team chemistry that they have, and I think the team is tired as a whole. Like you said, the Clippers can turn it on when they want. As far as on the total too, I think I mentioned it when he came back, but not that it means everything for every total. But since Gary Harris has been back, the unders have been back on track, and same can be said for the Clippers. Since they've gotten Patrick Beverley back, the unders have been back on track, and I think the Clippers aren't necessarily. I think the Clippers get it over with. I think they come out and they shut Denver down. I like Murray to struggle again, and I like the game would probably go under and the Clippers to probably win by a margin.
Yeah, Rob, I mean, since that Game 7 went under with Denver-Utah, the Game 3 line it was right near the number, so you could have had some different results there, but the other three have all stayed under in this series. This 13-1 Denver overrun has definitely died pretty fast and pretty sudden. Rob, what's your take on this Game 5 tonight?
Yeah, what are you showing currently, Steve? Like 216,
216 is pretty current. There's a couple 215.5s, but I'm seeing pretty much 216s in most spots.
Okay, so let's just use 216 for conversation's sake here, and anybody who likes over probably would look for the 215.5. So at 216, this total has fallen 7.5 points from the Game 1 closer. It was 223.5 close in Game 1. Now, if we just use 216, Game 1 found 217, Game 2 found 211, Game 3 found 220, and then, like Teddy said, Game 4, the whole bottom fell out. The bottom fell out of that game, 80% Clipper defense on the Nuggets, or 75%. The other 25% was Clippers' lousy shooting. I think I mentioned that the other day. I don't expect the Clippers to shoot 41% from the floor again, no matter who's on the floor. They're far better than that. If they get up to the mid-40s, 46, 47, and Denver had not shot this poorly in this series either. So it may be a little closer to the number than we think here as far as total is concerned. I'll say this. You talk about subtle adjustments. We'll bring up Reggie Jackson for the LA Clippers now that Pat Beverley's back. Reggie Jackson's minutes were 13 in the first game, 9, 5, 40 seconds. So Doc has found a way to get a 9-man rotation last game, 18 plus minutes for every single player. And that's too much for Denver to contend with. Denver has depth, but they don't have that type of depth. It showed up last game. I think, if the Clippers want it defensively again, Steve, and my thought being that they're going to play better offensively, then I would be on the LA Clippers here. I just don't think they would shoot 41% again.
Yeah, that's what jumped out to me too, Rob, was the bipolar nature of their shooting percentages in these 5 games so far. It's really remarkable. We kind of touched on it the other day going into game 4, 57, 41, 55, and then 42, so if that zigzag holds, they should have a good shooting performance. But even with that, they're still up 3-1 in the series. That's probably not a good sign for the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, Ski brought up the point that you brought up yesterday with maybe some turmoil within the team. I think that's another concern if you're looking for the Nuggets all of a sudden to pull a semi-miracle here down to 3-1.
Yeah, I'm looking for the prop. I want to know how many minutes Porter plays and how many shots he takes tonight. I mean, he's playing plenty of minutes, and in fact, he was fairly efficient. If you look at his numbers, he was one of the few that was really efficient defensively. I'm speaking strictly in offensive terms here because I still think he's a huge liability defensively, and I'm surprised that Doc Rivers and Kawhi haven't taken more advantage of isolating him. It's something that Utah did a really good job of, and when they won big, they did it because they really took advantage of Porter. Maybe maybe Doc and Kawhi don't feel like they have to do that to win. I don't know. I'm surprised.
So Teddy, I know you're not a big prop guy. I'm not a big fantasy or prop guy either. Can I interest you though in a Kawhi Leonard double-double? He's plus 110. It's almost even money if he has a double-double tonight. He's obviously a big-time player. Do you think he's more of a big-time player in a closeout game like Game 5?
Does he get the rebounds? Because, they haven't been pushing Kawhi to the boards in this series. They've been trying to get him out in transition. So that's my concern here, and that's why he's a plus price on the double-double. It has everything to do with Doc Rivers' game plan. So if he's a plus price for a reason, no, I don't want that.
Yeah, Ski, you've been doing well with the player props overall during the playoffs here. Any guys play against guys jump out to you? Paul George is 4-1 for a double-double, by the way. Much bigger price there.
Well, Teddy said they're not pushing him towards the boards. Well, look at Kawhi's assists. I mean, his assist total is at 5.5, and he's had 6, he's had 9, he's had 8.
Wow.
I mean, if they're gonna double team him or whatever the case may be, he can beat the defense and create for others. So I think he can get 6 assists. I think that's doable. I like some others, but I'll start with that one.
Yeah, by the way, his rebounds is 8.5 over, assists 5.5 under, points 30.5 under. So as Teddy said, the points isn't the issue. It's just can he get there? The rebounds most likely, or the assists. What else are you looking at, Ski?
My favorite prop on this one is going to be Jokic rebounds over 10.5. He surpassed that the past few games. If the Nuggets are going to do anything at all in this game, it's going to be majority on his shoulders. And I think 11 rebounds is not too much to ask. So I like that. And the only other one I would look at would be Jamal Murray under his point total. Last I saw, it was going down. It was either 23 or 22.5. I still like it to be under.
Yeah, Murray's a guy we talked about when we did the show at the beginning of the series. What was it, 24.5? I know several of you guys like the under 24.5, and it's been dropping here in the series. I'm seeing it at 23.5 under juice on that. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a little bit lower in the last game even, I think. Rob, any thoughts on those? Agree, disagree, or any other play-on-play against guys for you, big picture stuff?
Well, I'll say this, just taking notes as we went around the horn here. First of all, I'm surprised when you asked Tony about Michael Porter Jr., and maybe it's because I'm hiding my logo here, but it's my one time a week to wear the Mizzou shirt, and
That's right.
I'm surprised he didn't come at me with Michael Porter Jr. and the Mizzou shirt. But
see the collar there, the tiger stripe collar guy?
Yeah, there you go, Tone.
Yeah.
To Tony's point about taking advantage of Michael Porter Jr., the Clippers found out last game that they could take advantage of Jokic just the same. So, they're just splitting time. Remember, Utah pick and rolled Jokic to death.
Yeah.
He can't play any defense, and LA's figured that out, and therefore they're taking advantage of 2 guys right now. Kawhi double-double. He's had 3 of them the last 3 games. He goes 30-11, 23-14, 13-10. All double-digit rebounds, all double-digit points. So to see a 4th in a row, probably not a surprise here out of him. If you want to look for an under, just off of miserable play the last 3 games, Jeremy Grant does shoot 3-pointers for this Denver team. The last 3 games, he's 1 for 17 from the 3-point line. 1 for 6, 1 for 6, 0 for 5. I don't know what his 3-pointers made would be, but he's going to shoot them again. And if you're just playing current form, you're playing under. If you're going to play, well, he's overdue, then you're going to play over. But I would say if you play overdue, just remember he's Jeremy Grant. He's not necessarily a great 3-point shooter, so be careful there.
I'd also say, Rob, they're playing one of the best defensive teams in the league as well.
Yeah.
So in a closeout game, you probably default a little bit to the under props. James is asking on Murray's point total, and his chance said it's 23.5, James, over under. Was 24.5 back in game one. It's 23.5 under -130, actually. Guys, before we move on, any final thoughts? Just chime in. Any other thoughts on this game that have come to mind as we've gone around the horn? Forever hold your silence. Clippers, once again, an 8.5-point favorite, everybody. 216, lowest total he's seen. But as Rob brought up, the other games have been pretty close. Just like we said, that Laker point spread within a basket or two. A lot of the totals have been within a basket or two of some of these. WagerTalk.com, of course, is where you get the best bets for each and every one of us. Also, free plays at WagerTalk and Sportsmemo. We are here Monday through Friday, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific live, every Monday through Friday with NBA tip-off. No weekend show, but if you're joining us just now, we did handicap Game 5 Lakers-Rockets for Saturday at the top of this show. Of course, there could be a Game 6 maybe on Sunday between the Lakers and Nuggets. We just covered that game. What there will not be is a Game 8 between the Raptors and the Celtics. And although it's 2020, guys, anything's possible. Maybe the game will end in a tie and they'll have to play a Game 8. Who knows? I probably shouldn't say that it'll happen now. But, Tony, your thoughts on this big picture here? I believe you have a best bet on the total, if I'm not wrong, right? So give me your thoughts on the side in this one for the viewers.
Well, I'm not. I've stepped out of this. I did step out of this room completely for a while. You guys remember? I don't know how you explain. Here's the deal. This for me. I can sit here and rant and talk to each one of these games as far as the side goes, and how different they've been, and how many different things you see. What are you guys? I'm kind of staying away from the side and hoping and believing this total. I know they've adjusted this total because it's Game 7, but this is a pretty big difference from where this total opened up at and where it opens tonight. And my interest, and I'm going to go right to it, and that is I'm interested more in the soap opera of this series that has become where they're claiming that that some of the Toronto players are, saying "Hey, batter," while the "Hey, batter" stuff. The Marcus Smart is he's a junkyard dog. This dude, he without question always has been. Even when I watched him, who was covering the Big 12, and he was at Oklahoma State. He doesn't shoot as well as he shot, and he's shot lights effing out in the series and played hard and did some things that surprised me. But there's just so many things that are interesting. The thing that they're blaming Nurse for the turnover when he got off the bench, it's a friggin' soap opera, this thing, and I don't see it getting anything better or worse tonight. I think it's going to be a great, interesting game, and I don't know what happens, guys. I'll tell you this much right now. I don't know what happens at the end of this game if Toronto is ahead and it gets chippy. I'd say stay tuned. How about you guys?
Well, maybe we'll get my Game 8 situation that if they all get ejected. I'm starting to like it. Maybe that's an in-show wager. I get like 100 to 1. Yeah, as you guys know, I cashed big a few weeks ago when I took the draw bet on all the postponed games at 100 to 1 on the three-way line at that one book that's now out of business, by the way. But no, Teddy, all seriousness. Speaking of the total here, let's stay on the total, Teddy. What are your thoughts? It's a pretty big move to the under. We know it's a Game 7. We saw how the Game 7 Utah-Denver snapped about a 13-1 run and just smothered it by 60-some points last week to the under. But also Game 6, of course, I got fortunate with the over and needed overtime to get there. But that was in the 190s at the end of regulation. So, Teddy, what are your thoughts on this total drop? Do you think it's warranted, and how are you looking at it overall?
Well, when you go back, let's say these teams played on Christmas. All right, on Christmas, they got to 220. Since that time, they have played 8 meetings. All 8 stayed under in regulation. The first 4 in this playoff series stayed under by double digits in regulation. And actually at 98-98, the 5th game also stayed under, or whatever it is. I'm not losing track of the game. Whatever day it was, stayed under by double-digit margins in regulation. So now it's Game 7. In Game 7, the refs tend to let them play a little bit more physical. We saw them let them play real physical in Game 6 as well. where neither team was necessarily getting to the free throw line, and that was a part of the chippiness of that contest.
Yes.
Was the fact that the refs were letting them play. If we see the refs let them play tonight, and this may be a better in-game situation than it is a pre-game situation, but in-game, if I see the contact there and the refs aren't calling, you better believe I'm going to look to the under in this one. It's adjusted down this far for a reason. If it wasn't, they wouldn't be taking any over money.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to say real quickly, I didn't mention it. I thought after they got past the first quarter in this game, guys, I thought the over was I thought it was a cinch. In truth, I mean, the first quarter was a little scoring, but the fact that let's remember now, Toronto didn't score for 4.5 minutes in that end of the fourth quarter. 4.5 minutes. What's that worth? Worth anything? I don't know.
Yeah, Ski, what are your thoughts on this Game 7? I mean, I think we've agreed so far the Celtics have been the better team in this series. You look at their wins. They had the double-digit win in Game 1. They never trailed in Game 5. Toronto wins the buzzer in Game 3. They maybe get swept otherwise. You know, they need double overtime to win Game 6. If you look at the overall flow of the series, the Raptors' wins have all been cutthroat, yet this is still the defending world champs. They're a cutthroat-type team. Without Kawhi Leonard, they're still very dangerous. How do you handicap this game, Ski? I mean, the Celtics have played better overall, yet I think we would all agree if we had to pick some teams we wanted to do-or-die Game 7, Toronto would be near the top of that list.
Yeah, you know, I keep thinking about this, and I can't help but to mention it. I went on a Wager Talk today with Teddy and Prez, and the first question I got was, who's the better team, Toronto or Boston? And I keep hearing who's the better team, not even just here, but everywhere I'm listening to. And my answer was the Toronto Raptors.
Wow.
And I got a lot of responses from that. I'll just say that. And I still
Ski,
feel the
let me
same
ask
way.
you this, though, Ski. How do you not like them as a 3-point underdog then in Game 7?
That's what I'm getting to. I'm looking at it going up, and I think it's going to be a close game regardless who wins. I think, like we said the last game, you never underestimate heart of a champion. I think if you like Boston, you have to take them early. You take them on the first half. They've been up pretty much every first half this series. Even in the regular season, their first half point margin is greater than Toronto. And if you like Toronto, I mean, they come back in that third quarter. That's what they've been doing. And I was looking at teams in the playoffs in Game 7 after they won the last game. The last 8, they're 8-0 against the spread. The average line was only 2.9, and the under was 7-1, average line of 208. And I was going to say on the total, I initially leaned to the over, but the more I think about it, if it gets chippy, I agree it can go under.
Yeah, and by the way, the first half is 1.5, exactly half of the game line of 3. So it's priced accordingly. And the first half total is 101.5 versus 204. So it's almost 50-50 on the point spread and the total. And Rob, that would indicate the odds makers at least think it's a close game as well. Although you would think the second half would be a little higher with fouling if they think it's going to be close. Rob, what are your thoughts overall on this pivotal Game 7 in the Eastern Conference?
Well, I want to just travel back to the total discussion, Stephen. You know, sometimes ATS numbers where we just use this many games went over, this many games went under, sometimes they can be a bit misleading. I would rather compare what's happened in Toronto-Boston games to the 203 number that we're using tonight. I'm sure 203 was not the number in all the games played by Boston-Toronto, maybe none of them, because certainly none of the games in this playoff series had 203 as a closing total. So if I use 203, I look at Game 1, 206, Game 2, 201, Game 3, 207, Game 5, 200. I won't count the overtime game, but the overtime game in regulation stayed under. So you can see where I'm going with this. Steve. It's kind of like what I said about the Clippers and Denver total. While the perception is, wow, these games are staying way under, but these adjustments made by the bookmakers kind of put you in a position as a handicapper or better to think twice about just blindly following that total trend. I would say this: the situation is certainly different when it's Game 7 than any other game that these guys have played so far this year. For me, I would say I'm not going to answer which team is better than the other. I think we've established, I think in Ski's frame of mind, Ski believes that Toronto as a collective unit is a better team than Boston, and we all believe that Boston has the 2 or 3 better star people on their team. But for me, it comes down to which team is going to go into a dry spell offensively. And I think Toronto's far more likely to hit a dry spell. Tony talked about not scoring for 4.5 minutes to end the game the other night. In this particular series, Toronto's the team that for the game, for 48 minutes of regulation, I won't count the overtime part, but for 48 minutes of regulation, they're the team that's been held to 94, 99, 89, 98, not even seeing 100 points in 4 of these 6 games through regulation. Boston at times has showed us scoring with ease, 111, 112. So to me, in a game like this, it comes down to which team can score easier. I think that team is Boston. And where the total is concerned, like I say, that's very, very close. But in a Game 7 type situation, I don't know that I'd want to be involved in over.
I want to ask you guys a question, if that's okay.
Over.
Everybody in the last game, it was a double overtime game. They played all close to 50 minutes. Do you think that affects the defense or the offense?
Defense.
Yeah, I would agree with Tony. Defense. Defense it takes more out of you, I believe. Ski, you played the game, dude. The defensive end probably takes more out of you than the offensive end.
Ski never played defense.
Well, Ski was always full of energy then.
He was always tired.
Ski was never worn out. 50 minutes of offense.
He was always tired if he played no defense.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about pace, and we're talking about jump shots. And I agree the defense is going to be affected, but I also think that the offense is likely to be affected. But I mean, again, 9 of the 10 starters between the two teams played at least 47 minutes. 8 of the 10 played at least 50 minutes. So when you talk about jump shots hitting the front rim, I wouldn't be surprised to see a few of those. When you talk about Toronto's inability to push pace in this series, I wouldn't be surprised if that continues.
And something I'll say, guys, I haven't looked at the schedule. Normally, Teddy, you and I say it doesn't matter. They tell us when the games will be played. But since we're not doing a weekend show, I don't know if the NBA might try to force game 1 between the Heat and the winner on Sunday. They do that in the past, and that would be a nasty little thing to do to the winner of this game tonight, because not only are they coming off a double OT, but then they'd have a crucial Game 7, which is going to be to the max. Just something to keep an eye on. I don't know if we've seen when that series is supposed to start or not, Teddy.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to run up against the NFL's opening day.
Oh, that's a good point. No, that's a very good point. I think you're right. Yeah,
it'll be Monday or Tuesday. Monday Night Football the other way. But let me see.
No, but you're exactly right, because they love those Sunday afternoon games. But you're right; they won't need to force it because of the NFL. I think that's exactly right. And my take on the tired legs is defense is affected, but so is jump shots, and 3-point heavy teams like the Rockets would really be affected. I'd be more concerned if they're. And Toronto does live by the 3, probably a little bit more, guys. Don't you think?
Where I'd really be up. Go ahead, Ski. I'm sorry about that.
I just said Van Fleet does for sure.
Yeah, and Steve, if this were a back-to-back situation, it'd really be ugly. Right. But with the day off in between,
no
early I wouldn't. Yeah, early I wouldn't worry about it. But I think we've said often throughout these playoffs, second half you might worry about it a lot. These second halves tend to be lower scoring, and if it's close. And like Teddy said, if whistles aren't being blown and it becomes very, very physical, then everybody's going to be dog-tired by the end of this, because these coaches aren't going to go to the bench too deep here in a Game 7 situation.
Teddy, what are your thoughts on the first half split here? I mean, the spread is 3, 204, 1.5, 101.5. So basically the second half total is almost 50-50, 102.5. It's a point higher. If it's going to be a close game, wouldn't the second half total be a little bit more than that?
See, it all depends. Okay, if it's a 1-possession game with 2 minutes to play,
good point.
You could easily see like what we saw the other night, where it was 98-98 for 2 minutes and nobody scored. All right. If a team is up 2 possessions with less than a minute to play, you can see 20 minutes scored in the last minute. We got 3-pointer and foul and 3-pointer and foul and 3-pointer and foul. So I'm not surprised that the second half total is relatively low compared to the first half total, as opposed to being a notch or 2 higher than it is. And if there's ever a game that we expect defensive intensity in the fourth quarter, a Game 7 is that game, regardless of how tired they are. So if I was gonna try to sneak an over in, I try to sneak a first half over in, not a full game.
And once again, it's 204 for the game. You're getting a little bit of a smaller line in the first half at 101.5. And also tired legs might creep into the second half more, but then again, that hurts the jump shot. So I really think it's almost a wash as far as the fatigue factor. And I also think there's less fatigue in a game 7. That's why I brought up the game 1 of the next series, because I think that's where the fatigue really might kick in if they don't have enough layoff, Teddy.
Yeah, and I was just looking for anything that's official about the conference finals. There is no official start date whatsoever.
I think you're exactly right about Sunday NFL. Once you said that, because I forgot the NFL Sunday. I'm not used to having Sunday pro football right now, and I didn't think they would want that standalone day empty. But, yeah, they won't compete with the NFL.
And they're talking about the finals going through like mid-October. So it's
that's what I saw as well. Yeah, so it might be a longer layoff here before the conference finals. If the Lakers and Clippers close the next two, better than a 50-50 shot they do both win the next 2 nights. We might have no pro basketball for several days.
Tony, Steve, real quick, it's a rare, because these NFL week 1s, opening weekends, also feature 2 Monday night games, an early game and a late game. So you could almost say that if they play Monday, they'd be going up against the NFL again, unless they play their games in the daytime, which they won't.
That's a great point, actually. We're moving the lines heavy here as we're analyzing this. I just went from Sunday to like minus 400. They don't start till Tuesday. I think you're exactly right about that. Yeah. And Teddy, you're right about stretching into October. I saw that when everything began. And I was actually kind of doing the math in my head the other day. I was like, we're nowhere close to that. And I was like, well, we are the second week of September. I mean, I'm all confused with the months and the days, as we all are. Tony, you're an in-game guy, though, and I want to ask you this. From an in-game perspective, will you be looking at something down the stretch those last 3-4 minutes with the total, if it's a close game or if it's a 2-point margin? And also, what are your thoughts, Tony? We haven't talked about the money line. They're a 3-point favorite. They're minus 155 on the money line. Do you see any edge one way or the other there?
No, I think that's about right. And as far as the end game, no. I'm one of those right now. To comment a little bit on what I see and what I took away from last game, and what I researched and what I've seen of Toronto. As much as I hate to put everything on Lowry, how Lowry goes, not so much Van Fleet. It's how Lowry goes, so go these Raptors. He seems to be I didn't think he was the heart and soul like he was. He wasn't last year the heart and soul, but this year I didn't watch a lot of Raptors stuff. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but he seems to be, when he's playing well and has the energy, Toronto seems to be a more offensive rhythm. They seem to get out and run a little more, and not that they've done a lot of that, but right now, if I had to if somebody had to make one sentence about Toronto, I'd say how Lowry goes, so go the Raptors.
Yeah, by the way, anybody out there, I've got a 2-1 on a double-double. It's plus 220, minus 300 on the no on Kyle Lowry. Ski, any thoughts on the player props in general?
Player props, I'll say in the order that I guess I like them. I would look for Siakam to probably continue to struggle under 19 points. I don't think that will change too much. We've seen a lineup where Toronto puts Siakam or OG as the big man, and he was racking up rebounds. So I think over 6.5 or 7 rebounds is worth a look. And we'll see how long he stays on the floor. But exactly. I like Ibaka 3-pointers over 1.5.
Yeah, Ski, I love the Siakam props, by the way. I'm looking at DraftKings. They usually put up as many as anyone. They don't have him listed, but I'm looking at one of the sharp offshores. They've got him at 19.5, under minus 150 on points. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking to myself, I always love unders and season win totals, props, or anything, because it's built in that they all play normal minutes. Everything goes according to plan. If anything goes wrong or someone gets hurt, there's just bonus edge with the under. So I kind of agree with you there. What else are you looking at, Ski? Any other players?
I don't know if you heard me, but OG Anunoby over 6.5 rebounds.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get.
3-pointers, 1.5 over.
And anybody out there want a Marcus Smart triple-double? By the way, he needed double over. Yeah, they don't have the odds on it, but they don't even have the double odds. But of course, he got the triple double. That.
Well, I know what Tony wants.
Huh? What does Tony want?
Tony wants Marcus Smart 3-pointers under 2.5.
I want Gasol over 2, over 1.5 again.
They took him off. They took Gasol off.
But Ski, will you put it on for him?
Yeah, you guys listen.
Sportsbook.com, give him that bet.
Yeah, we can do it.
Anything Ski wants. If he wants something, I want the other side. I don't care. Just name it.
So Ski, you got over 1.5 Gasol 3-pointers?
Oh, I got under.
Under. Tony, what do you got? I thought Tony wanted that. Tony's pro. Oh, you're pro Gasol.
Well,
had it
you
backwards.
guys don't. I came on and said, "Listen, I like Gasol to hang out in the 3-point line." You guys,
Gotcha.
he's an idiot. He hadn't shot a 3-pointer since August. Well, he made 2 3-pointers,
Hey,
and that's all that damn matters.
I guess you can make 2 out of 20. So
Yeah. Well, hey, I can make 3 out of 20. Hell,
Ticket still cashes though, Ski. That's the beauty of it.
Teddy can take his glasses off and make 3 out of 20.
Rob Vino, we had you at what, 3 out of 30?
Maybe.
If Teddy didn't ankle feed you with the inbound passes the other day, what are your thoughts?
Listen, you know what? That was over 3.5, shooting, I think, 23 threes, unguarded. Even with Teddy throwing them at my shoelaces, I think I could get 4. Now,
I'm thinking
Ski
the over
said,
as well.
Ski said he would feed me, and if Ski would feed me, then it's a no-brainer. We're gonna get 8 or 9 in the bucket. So. Listen, we were talking about totals real quick before, and Teddy brought up a great point about how, depending upon the score and time situation at the end of a game usually dictates where the total goes. And I would think that if you were to choose one of these 2 totals tonight to play over, even though it's 215.5 as opposed to 203, the line maker showing you a 7.5 point spread indicates that, Denver might be in that zone the last 2 minutes, 90 seconds, where they have to foul and shoot in a elimination game type setting. These teams generally just don't go down quietly. They'll continue to foul down 9 or 10. So maybe the Denver game is the one that gets more fouls, but it's really hard to predict what the score is going to be with 90 seconds left in the game. But I would think just when you base those things, you base them off of what the odds maker is telling you the line is, and the gap of 7.5 or 8 would 8.5, would indicate that maybe Denver's in a better situation, and that the Toronto-Boston game might be in a 1-possession situation. As for props, guys, I would probably, I don't know. I say this kind of lukewarm, but I think that the 23 and 5 point totals that we saw out of Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker the other night might reverse themselves, where Kemba becomes the higher scorer tonight than Marcus Smart does.
20.5. Kemba's 20.5, and Smart is 12.5. 20.5 and 12.5, Rob.
Yeah, there's way better value in just looking to get 13 points. But in a big game situation, Kemba Walker to me is a guy, and especially coming off a bad one, I would think that 21 could be within reach for him. So, like I say it lukewarm, but Kemba Walker over would pique my interest a little bit.
Tony, you have any takes on Walker or Smart? I guess Rob would be taking over Kemba under Smart.
Yeah, I think that's a good – listen, if you like Boston here, if you like Boston to win this game, I think that you need to be over with Kemba. I think that's Kemba's got to do more offensively. Yep. He just has to. And if you like Toronto to score 100 points, if you think Toronto can score 100 points against this Boston Steelers tonight, even though it's Game 7, and it's going to be chippy, and even if the refs are swallow whistles, then you better play the over. That's just those are the 2 takes. Which one do you like?
Yeah, Teddy, what's your final thought on play against guys in there in Kemba? I guess you were saying he probably has to have a big game.
Well, it makes a ton of sense. If you like the Celtics, other ways to get at the Celtics include Kemba tonight. I would think that Kemba going over correlates pretty strongly with Boston. So if you're looking for other ways to get at the Celtics, Kemba makes perfect sense.
Yeah, once now I'm seeing him around 20.5, which is a very reasonable total. I think he was as high as 21.5 in some other games. So you're actually getting a little bit of a discount, even though the Celtics are the 3-point favorite, about as big as they've been in the series. And also, just clutch player at UConn, as we all know. So there is something about clutch players in big-time games. Guys, any final thoughts before we head out for the weekend? Speak now or forever hold your peace, Rob Vino.
I'm going to speak now because I have to, right? Nuggets Clippers tonight. I want to stay in this house. Lou Williams over the total. I'll go to my damn grave.
Guys, in case he loses. This is what the house looks like one final time.
You know what? Might have to put the headstone up now because I may jump off the Ben Franklin Bridge here in Philadelphia, but I will go down with Lou Williams over his total tonight. Steve, I don't know if DraftKings has it up, but I know that it's been 14.
13.5 under -120.
Even money. They want me. They want me.
You're
tonight.
getting even money, Rob Bino. So you have a 50-50. Actually, have a 48% chance of keeping your house according to DraftKings.
I have to be there, Steve. I mean, if I'm You know, if I'm a vagabond by night's end, that's so be it. But I have to be with Lou Williams tonight over 13.5.
And the good news is Tony Finn will not have to check his 1990 sports pager to find the result, because we'll just tune in Monday on NBA Tip-Off. If we see a Starbucks logo or a Postal Service logo behind Rob Vino, we know he lost his house.
Rob, listen, we got plenty of room out here for you if you need a place.
There's room behind the board. You can live behind the board there in Tony's studio, Rob.
I'll be on the end of I-15, Tony, holding up one of those signs like those people. You know?
Which end? Which end?
We got a pool. We got a pond.
You're at Teddy's house.
Pond pool. Pond's good for Vino.
Very good. Teddy, I can help your son out down the road. Maybe that gets me in the door. But, yeah, I like Lou Williams. Up and over the total.
Rob, you've had a nice resume. I didn't know Tile Layer was on it till we talked the other week on the show here. And then we were talking off show, your early Vegas 90s days yesterday after the show. We were talking about your jobs. And then you could add Nanny for Teddy Cervansky to the list there.
Now, I want to get Teddy's son into the music industry very, very early. I want to put him up on stage.
Vegas is a good spot to probably become famous.
Teddy's son's a talented kid.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know. Teddy never shares that stuff with me. You know.
Gee, I wonder why, Teddy. Huh? Ski. Any final thoughts from you as we head into the weekend? You got a W. What do you have going on at Wager Talk? I got to go around the horn here. What's everyone got tonight, Ski? What do you have?
You know, the only play I have today is a play on the Mariners game. I've been pretty much hunting Kikuchi and rocking with his over since last year. So
awesome. And by the way, just did first pitch from Friday with Andrew McGinnis. Andrew's got a best bet in the Mariner Diamondback game, and Dave disagrees with him. I agreed with him on an angle we took. So we have a good segment on the Mariners and Diamondbacks, which probably would be one of the last things I thought I'd ever say on an NBA tip-off show this year. But Tony, what do you got going on for Friday at Wager Talk?
I have 2 baseball plays. And I have 1 NBA play. I'm on the late NBA game, and both of my baseballs are early plays. So, I'm routinely going 2-1, which I know it doesn't sound that good, but I'm damn attracted to that. Just give me 2-1 every day for the rest of my life, and life is good.
You know what's funny about that, Tony, is you say that to a recreational guy that just picks his spots. He doesn't even win a full unit. He wins like 0.9 after.
That's right. That's correct.
And you're like, yeah, that's nothing special. But then you think, as we all think, 67% basically wins you the Hilton Super Contest every year. I mean, it'll make you a small million basically within a matter of minutes as a professional gambler. So, it's amazing how the long-term perspective versus the short-term perspective is so important. Teddy, I know you're someone that takes a long-term perspective in sports betting. What do you got going on? You've been red hot in the NBA. I know you got another best bet tonight for the NBA.
Yeah, and that might be the smartest thing Tony ever said on the show. You know, but it's the truth. 2-1 every day. I'm very happy when I go to. You love the sweep, but
even 3-2 would be great. You know, actually 3-2 would be better probably.
I'll take 2-1. It's just fine.
No, I can't spread my chins
better because you pay more juice with the second.
Yeah, but I'm thinking you're hitting 60% over more games, but I guess 2-1 is better because you're making more units. So you're right. Yeah, but
I'm locked and loaded. I have 1 play in the NBA for tonight, a couple plays in college football for tomorrow, and NFL locked and loaded for Sunday. All available right now at WagerTalk or SportsMemo.com.
That's right. Teddy's also at SportsMemo.com. We're all at WagerTalk.com. It's very simple. If you know how to use your internet browser, as I hope most of you do, if you're watching this right now, you can find our best bets and free plays. Rob Vino, I know college football is a great sport for you. What you got going on?
Yeah, up and available right now, Steve. A couple of college football plays off of the Miami of Florida winner last night. You know, it's just crazy in this time that we're in that you have to go hunting coronavirus information, but came across it. Yeah, came across it pretty quickly with the UAB team yesterday and got a good number at 14. The game steamed all the way to 16, 16.5 in some places. So we got a couple of plays up already for tomorrow. And NFL also up as well. And tonight I am involved in one of the NBA games. So plenty to choose from at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody, I'm 8-2 this month in baseball, and the bad news is I was 8-1 yesterday. I actually had a rare miss last night, but still 8-2, 80%. I've got a baseball best bet. Also have an NFL 5%er for Sunday night at WagerTalk.com. And for everyone on the panel here, we'll be back on Monday, our normal time, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, Monday through Friday, and of course the weekend baseball show keeps rolling this Saturday and Sunday, special time, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Tony and I will be on each day with Matt Josephs hosting Mid-Major Matt, and also Andy Lang, my NASCAR co-host, is going to be on UFC Live again this Saturday night. I think he's starting a little early at 5 or 6 Eastern, and they've been making a killing with some free information on that show. In-game wagers, they tell you what they're using as they're lock and loading them, and they've made a lot of money the last few weeks on that show. So baseball at 12 noon Eastern, UFC Live around 5, 6 Eastern, whenever the first fight goes this weekend. And then, of course, we are back Monday, as we are every weekday, Monday through Friday, 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, right here on Wager Talk TV for NBA Tip-Off. For Tony Finn, Teddy Covers, Ski Prophet, Rob Vino, I'm your host, Steve Merrill. Find us at wagertalk.com, and we'll talk to you again on Monday. Have a great weekend and good